So we're going to start with our basic breathing primer. So just some highlights here. Our diaphragm is responsible for breathing. It's that like skirt steak thing that runs along the lower part of our ribs. And what happens is when we breathe in, it contracts, it pulls down, and that's what sucks in air. And then as we relax, it folds back up this way, and we exhale. So what we want to do is we want to check and see where that breathing is coming from. And here's the deal. If we can really make sure that the breathing is happening from the diaphragm, we can push down into that abdominal cavity. If we can be strong and stable through our anterior abdomen, the outside, the back, and our pelvic floor, then we can create this like strong canister, and that breath can actually breathe down and create stability, increasing that intra-abdominal pressure. So if we can get you stable, we can get you strong. If we can get you strong and stable, we can get you powerful. That's why this is important. So this is how we go through it from start through into a plank. All right, so we've got Elijah here. First thing I'm gonna have him do is just start with one hand on his belly, one hand on his chest. And all I'm gonna do is say, I want you just to be there and breathe and just take inventory and kind of see how things feel, figure out which hand is moving. Try not to cue too much, but I just want you to explore a little bit and see how your body's responding. Now, just watching him here, he's doing a great job. This top hand is real quiet, that bottom hand is moving. That means that as he breathes in, that diaphragm contracts, pushes down. He's not standing, he doesn't need his core, so his belly just rises. Totally perfect, that's great. So if he was if he was breathing into his chest, I'd see that top hand rise, or I might see both hands rise. But I would cue him to say, make this quiet, make that bottom one move as you breathe, nice and slow. No deep breaths, no need to. You're not running from a bear, you're just right here, right? Okay, so now we're gonna start adding some layers to this, okay? So I wanna keep the intention on this hand and your breath happening down there. Go ahead and tuck your chin and lift your head for me. Good, so now he crunches up. A lot of people are gonna hold their breath at this point, and that's not what I want. So with that chin tuck, that head lift, your abs are gonna turn on, right? And now I want you to still think about breathing into that belly. Good. So what's going to happen though is it's not going to excur nearly as far because it's now contracted. So what he might feel is a little bit less movement, even though his breath is the same, but he also might feel like it's pressurizing in here, which is really what we want. Okay, doing all right? Okay, so phase two, yeah, you can rest for a second. Okay, did you feel that extra pressure in there? Okay, great, yeah. Okay, so the next step, here's what we're going to do. Go ahead, tuck your chin, lift your head. And now take one leg off the ground, and then take the second leg off the ground into that tabletop position. And then same thing, can you focus on breathing into that belly? And again, now his abs are really on, right? If you want, you can even think about flattening that low back down into the floor. Okay, great. Now we're just gonna add another layer. Can you take this leg and kick it out that way? And so now he's extended out, he's starting to shake a little bit. Can you still cycle a breath for me into that belly? There you go, and then bring that leg in, and then take that other leg out. Take a breath, make sure that we can start layering these tasks and see what happens. Does the breathing fall apart? Bring it back in. Okay, and then the hardest one, can you take both legs out into like a hollow hold position? Can you still cycle one breath here? Nice, and let's go feet down, head down, and relax. Okay, good. So I was able to challenge him through those different progressions, and he was able to still breathe into his belly. He was working a lot harder. He's starting to turn a little red, so that was all good. But again, he was still able to focus on that breathing. So if you can still breathe down into here, that means that it's not overloading our system too much. We don't want it to be a maximal hold just to kind of get into that hollow position, because ultimately we want you to be able to create stability and still breathe at the same time for a lot of different tasks. As we were talking about layering tasks, as he was up into that tabletop position, that was one thing to get his anterior core on. As he cycled one leg out and had one leg in, if we had put him upright, that would have been walking, right? Akin to walking. And then if we had both legs out, that would be more like that plank position that we really want to see is if it translates into. So again, can he create that stability that we need? And a lot of times what you'll find too, so when you try this at home, is as you breathe in and that diaphragm pushes down and you pressurize through your abdomen, that you'll feel a little bit more stable and be like, oh yeah, I got this. And then as you exhale, it's like, oh no, I'm shaking and it's hard. And I breathe in and oh, I'm more stable, and oh, I exhale, oh, it's getting hard again. And that's what we want. As you pressurize, you create stability, and as you exhale, there's less stability. But it's not a but it's not a maximal exercise. Okay, so from there, let's take that into progress you into a plank and even progress you into a push-up, okay? So Elijah, go ahead and flip over onto your hands and knees for me, actually. And then what I'm actually gonna have you do is go ahead and from this position, can you just breathe into your belly, and we can just kind of check that out. As a clinician and coach, I just come in here from the side, make sure he's kind of filling up in this lower abdomen here. Everything looks great. Okay, now I'm gonna have you go down into your forearms with your palms up for me. So more of this like pillar style plank. Except, sorry, back on your knees. And kind of start to walk your knees out a little bit, just so that they're back. Okay, so what we're gonna do is to really cue this is in this position, I want you to press yourself away from that floor. I want you to turn your palms up and try to spread the ground with your forearms. And I want you to think about tucking your butt underneath you just a little bit. So if you squeeze your butt and squeeze those lower abs just a little bit. And when I say 3, 2, 1, go, you're just gonna tighten your quads and straighten your legs. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, and he pops up into this perfect plank, except I'm gonna drop your butt just a little bit, like drop it down towards the ground. Boom, all right, are you still breathing? Yes, he's breathing, that's great. So he's creating tension here. He's creating tension through his hips and his quads just by squeezing his butt and squeezing his legs. And his abs are on for sure, but he's breathing into them. Again, this isn't a max lift, but we're trying to teach him how to create maximal tension from the top of his head all the way down to his heels and still breathe. Okay, and knees down, rest. Okay, if I can teach him how to be super stable in that plank position from head to tail and even from head to heel, that's a great foundation to press off of, to pull off of, to overhead press, to pull down from, to really do all the functional exercises that we would do in any kind of training program. So that is why this progression needs to make sense, and it needs to be realized from on the ground and then add different layers to it into this plank position. And then from here, we can add push-up. We can talk about all these other movements, pushing, pulling, carrying, hanging, everything. But it all comes back to that breath and being able to breathe in those positions of stability without it being max load. Now, we can hold our breath or do these partial breath holds when it comes to lifting really heavy stuff, but nothing in the body weight realm should necessarily be a maximal lift at this point.